Ted Cruz is a moron. Ted Cruz is a microwave saber-tooth, with the muscle tone of a vinegar-soaked marshmallow, and the spine of a pressed sea cucumber. He's a mutant, and his only power is that he's able to make any human being do whatever the opposite of cum is. A fat old man old enough to be his dad called his wife ugly on national TV, and he did nothing. This man, if such generous nomenclature can be applied, decided to open his mouth about the left once again to demonstrate his profound ignorance and total illiteracy by announcing to the world that he missed the point of The Watchmen, a comic book about how Cape's ideology leads to authoritarianism, written by a guy who looks like this, and what a fierce snake-worshipping beast he actually is. Ted Cruz is a sad beta male opportunist, simping for a dying political fad and cancer on humanity. And I am Dan Upton, a man who can grow a respectable beard. And this is the Doomcast. Dragging Ted Cruz is a lot like playing Call of Duty with your dad. Sure, it's fun and hilarious to everybody, but it's far too easy, pathetically so. Now, if I were into reinforcing arbitrary patriarchal gender norms like he is, I would point out that he's a soft, unlikely able to lift a 30-pound dumbbell without pulling 14 separate unused muscles and spraining his unused, useless penis. Or that he looks like somebody melted a statue of Grandpa Munster made of Velveeta. But I am above such things, and I'll simply point out that where Ted Cruz's assertion that all comic book supervillains like Thanos and Adrian Veidt are environmentalists is fundamentally incorrect. One, neither of them are. You clearly are one of those people that watched the Watchmen movie and thinks that the hero was Rorschach and Veidt was the villain. You're wrong. They're all fucking villains. Every goddamn one of them. Except for Silk Spectre. She's mostly fine. Why would you even think that all of the villains are environmentalists? As though Adrian Veidt, the billionaire industrialist, was an environmentalist? He was the pinnacle of billionaire worship in comics. He's evil Bruce Wayne, or Lex Luthor with hair. He didn't kill 3 million people just because he was worried about climate change. He wasn't worried about it at all. He was worried that without doing that, humankind would annihilate itself with nuclear weapons, so instead of diplomacy or convincing Dr. Manhattan to disarm humankind, either itself an inherently authoritarian act, he murdered people at a false flag so that the world was open for business. For him, it was selfish. Thanos is worse and easily the more Republican of the two because despite the fact that he doesn't have any money, if you're just a passing movie fan, you don't really understand. Thanos was a pure sadist and literally in love with death. He's a death cultist, a zealot, the most Republican thing you could possibly be. He literally thought that killing half of the universe would be a sacrifice so he could get his dick wet dry with a skeleton lady. In the movies, he killed half of the universe because he had a gauntlet that could do anything, you know, kind of like a federal military budget that you could cut. And he thought that by letting half of the people die that you'd have enough scarce resources for the rest of the people, creating plenty for everybody, which, gee, where have I heard that before? Oh, right, the GOP literally every year for the last 40 years. Not having the vision to just double planets and resources when you have them, or tie the minimum wage to inflation and make higher ed taxpayer funded as well as healthcare. Not far from either of each other. Ted Cruz is a doughy feral hobbit who looks like what you'd get if you pulled Lev Schreiber out of the oven before it was done baking, or maybe if you asked a child to draw Mark Ruffalo. But he is an incredible Hulk of a traitorous secessionist piece of garbage, and he does what a fascist always does, which is attempt to reinterpret popular culture narratives to fit their ideology, like what the Nazis did with Wolfram von Eschenbach, Wagner, Norse myth, and Barbarossa. For a guy that seems like he would complain a whole lot about social justice warriors in comics, he sure likes to impress his own politics when they clearly aren't actually there. Alan Moore was and is an anti-authoritarian, anti-fascist sex wizard who smokes grass with the devil and worships the snake goddess in dresses, again, like this, and definitely didn't write The Watchmen as an indictment of climate change, although it is an indictment of how neoliberalism and apathy paves the way for authoritarian fascism. Dr. Manhattan had every opportunity to not only stop Veidt or the treacherous circumstances which Veidt misguidedly attempted to correct to his own benefit. There's probably other exegetical readings of The Watchmen that are perfectly valid. But without a doubt, Ted Cruz is moronic dipshit, and it's terrible. Even the title references the idea that the Watchmen must still be held accountable. Anyway, Ted Cruz is wrong, and I want to challenge him to one round of arm wrestling, and if he loses, he can never mention any nerd or comic-related franchises again in public. Now, if he wins... Anyway, this has been the Doomcast. Ted Cruz sucks.